Coming up on Locked On NBA Daily, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander joins Wilt Chamberlain in the record books, but are people really appreciating what we're watching him do in OKC? Meanwhile, the Warriors continue to slide, and there are real questions about how they handle Steph's future. And finally, we look ahead to tonight's big game between the Celtics and Spurs. Locked On NBA Daily starts now.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On NBA Daily, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. However you're tuning in on YouTube or on your podcast app, thanks so much for making us your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. I'm Wes Goldberg. Today we're talking about the MVP race maybe being over, the Warriors star hunting this summer, and we'll look ahead to some fun matchups on the schedule tonight. We're doing it with the help of Locked On's local experts. I have two of the best with me, as always, from the Locked On Nuggets podcast. He's a senior NBA writer for the Action Network. It's Matt Moore. Matt?
The immortal jellyfish can turn its cells into different cell types. It's the only animal that they've ever found that can do this. It can actually transform its cells, much like the Thunder, even without their players, can transform themselves into whatever they need.
From the Locked On Bulls podcast, he's a Bears and Bulls creator for Bleacher Report. It's Haize.
We pregame conversation with me and the guys. We were talking about West and the lovely locks that he has on his head, but also let's acknowledge the fact that Matt Moore has a really good aged beard. The gray patches in the front. Shout out to Matt Moore.
Very sophisticated, very Clooney-like. On the night that he tied Wilt Chamberlain's 63-year-old scoring record, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander hit the game-winning three-pointer to beat Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets in an instant classic, a really fun game on Monday night. According to Ryland Styles, Shai, with that win and that performance, stamped his MVP case.
SGA put his stamp on the MVP award. SGA is the best player in the world. What he can do on both ends of the floor, he's the best player in the world, and he won this game. He controlled the pace of this game. He controlled the tempo of this game. He controlled the offensive processing in this game. He got stops defensively late, and he hit two dagger threes, because that's what legendary players do. That's what MVPs do. That's what all-time greats do. And it's unbelievable watching SGA play for Oklahoma City.
So a few stats before we jump into this part of the conversation. SGA has now scored 20 or more points in 126 consecutive games, tying Wilt Chamberlain for the longest streak in NBA history. He's on pace to become the first player since Michael Jordan to average 30-plus points per game in 4 straight seasons. And if he does win the MVP this season, he's going to join elite company as the rare back-to-back MVP. Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Moses Malone, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Tim Duncan, Steve Nash, LeBron, Steph, Giannis, Jokic. Those are the greatest of the great players. Before we get into maybe the bigger part of this conversation, guys, we all just believe he's going to win the MVP this season. It's barring something crazy, we're accepting that Shai is the MVP, right? We're all there.
Yeah, he's got 5 games left he can miss before being ineligible. As long as he's eligible, he wins.
So accepting that, knowing that that's probably going to happen, back-to-back MVPs, I gave you the numbers, I gave you the accolades. Matt, is it time to have a conversation about Shai, to Ryland's point, being the best in the world, the #1 guy over Nikola Jokic?
I mean, anytime that you win an MVP, you get to be in that conversation. The MVP is a resume award. It's what did you accomplish? I am not ready to give him the best in the world title. I'm just not. I don't. If you're somebody that's like, I think he's the best in the world, I'm like, okay, we disagree, and that's fine. It's not a stupid opinion. It's totally fine. It's basketball. That's a totally fair opinion for a 2-time MVP to be considered the best in the world. He had 15 dimes last night, and that was really great. And his passing has been much improved this year. He doesn't shape the court like Jokic does. He doesn't shape the court like Luka or Giannis do. I think he's better than Luka and Giannis, but he's not better than Jokic. It's just Jokic and Shai. But Jokic shapes the court more. And if you want to go, oh, but the defense, okay. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is a good defender. He is not a great defender. He is not an elite defender. He's a good defender. Jokic is a bad defender. But if we're talking about best in the world, I'm still going to hold on to Jokic here because of how he shapes things. The things that Shai is awesome at, Shai is otherworldly at. And that's like the more interesting conversation to me is like, where does he stack up? When we look historically at the type of guard that he is a scoring guard, where does he stack up? Because it is very difficult to build winners with the type of player that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is. And I don't mean that from like Shai's efficient. There's no drags on Shai's offensive game. But from an ISO-centric, he has the ball all the time, heavy pick and roll, mid-range jump shooting guy. It's hard to build a winner with that. And they've done it. And they've done it at such a level beyond everybody else, which is a credit to both OKC and Shai for his efficiency and everything else. Where I like to take this conversation, though, is because I asked this question on Twitter. I think it's a really interesting one. Haize, when you're evaluating the best scorer since Jordan, do you want to look at what their highs are, or do you want to look at their consistency? Because Shai's number of 40-plus performances does kind of fall short of Kobe and Harden and Luka and those type of guys. But the consistency, as the Wilt record proves, is just unmatched. So what's more important to you?
I think the consistency part of it is the most important part to me, because like the highs are the highs, like make no mistake about it, and it's great to see. But if without consistency, those highs don't mean as much to me. So I think it has to be the consistency aspect of it.
So Eric Nem from The Athletic text DM me this, and I was going to steal it, but I said to go ahead and give him credit. He said that, you know, the way that OKC is such a system built champion, which is something I said, and they are, like, they're an incredible system, like all the way through their organization. They're amazing. And what he said was, this ties into that point about Shai with the consistency. And I was like, how? And what he said was, OKC doesn't need him to go for 50. They're never going to need him to go for 50 points, because their system means that everybody can eat, everybody can benefit, and their defense is going to put them in a great position to win the game anyway. But they do need Shai's 20 every night to set a baseline of production. You just, every single night, you can pencil in, and not really 20, it's 30. You can pencil in Shai, no matter the opponent, the scheme, the matchup, the rest, anything. Shai's getting 30. You just have that to build off of. And that consistency is what makes OKC the best team in the league over the last 3 seasons.
Well, I think it's the consistency, but I also think it is the versatility. Like I get that Shai, rightfully so, is labeled as a pass for a scoring point guard. But I do think that if he was on a different team with a different makeup, I do think there's more of a passer in there. Like Shai is still averaging 17 points created off assists per game. Jokic averages around 24, 25-ish. I think if Shai needed to facilitate more, and that's something to watch as his career goes on much further down the road. But I do think that there is a passer in there that can facilitate a little bit more if needed. But like you said, they need his scoring. They need that right now with the makeup of the team. They have defenders all over the place. They need his scoring. And I think that's what adds to Shai and who he is as a player, is that he can do a little bit of everything. And depending on the makeup of the team,
Haize,
just that.
Would you, I mean, I've got Matt's answer about Jokic being number one. Are you, like, where are you on this? Because you could make the argument, and Rylan does in this show, about, hey, like what Shai does defensively surpasses what Jokic does.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he is more of a two-way player, you can give him. I will say this, there is something about a big man being able to do the things that Jokic is able to do as far as creating, it adds more flexibility in how you build your roster. Because if you wanted to surround him with scoring guards and guards that can score more than they can pass, you can do that with Jokic, right? Like for Shai, you still need him to be a passer, but the defensive side of Shai is something that does give him a little bit of a leg up.
So who do you have number one in the world?
I still got Jokic personally.
Yeah, I
just think like what Jokic can do as a big man is that's such a complex part of the game that nobody else can replicate.
You have to be as awesome as he is offensively to make up for that defensive gap, but it is massive. Also, this is like an underrated thing. Shai made some defensive plays last night, and some Thunder fans were chirping at me. But if you go back and watch some of their losses, go watch what they were doing to Shai in those matchups defensively. And it makes sense because you want to attack him because you want to wear him down. But like, you could beat Shai Gilgeous-Alexander defensively. Like,
Shai's not good enough defensively where I'm really like, he's not peak Kawhi on that end, right? You know, he's not at that. He's not even peak LeBron at that.
Like,
end.
he's good.
He's not a negative.
Good. Yeah, and that's how I feel about him as a passer, though. Is like, I feel like he's a good passer. Like Steph Curry is a legitimately bad passer. Like, this has always been my thing. Steph is a bad passer. He does not throw passes on target and is turnover prone. Shai never turns the ball over, but he also doesn't really risk anything. He doesn't shape the floor or really like catch you off guard with like, whoa, never saw that pass coming. Never. He's just like, oh, the X player did Y, so I will now make Z pass. And that's what he does.
He makes the right read and he does it consistently. And consistency is the word that keeps coming up with Shai. if you look at the scoring numbers, right? We mentioned the consistency in terms of scoring 20 or more. He's joining Wilt. I thought the broadcast made a great point that if you're ever in the conversation and the other guy is in a black and white photo, that's a pretty incredible thing, and that's where Wilt was. But you look at these numbers that he's putting up. I just did a basketball reference deep dive on this. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, for players averaging 31 points on 59% effective field goal percentage, it's just him and Steph.
Yeah.
It's him and Steph in the 2020-2021 season. That's the list. And then if you also filter out, well, the fact that Steph was doing it on a lot of threes, let's put in 60% from two, which is what Shai is averaging on these 2-pointers. The list is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and that's it. Now, if you bump the point per game average from 31 down to 30, then he's on a list with LeBron and Giannis. So it's equally as impressive either way. So I do have one more question for you guys when it comes to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander specifically. Like, what are we actually watching here in the context of the history of the league? Like, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, best scorer since blank. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On NBA Daily. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Daily is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. I pulled up the Game Time app, I picked an upcoming NBA game, and I had tickets locked in within minutes. I love seeing the all-in price up front. No surprise fees at checkout. What I saw is what I paid. And I was able to see my view from my seat before I bought my tickets, making my decision easy. The zone deals really stood out. I chose the section, Game Time picked the seats, and then I saved money. They also have great last-minute options, too, with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices right before tip-off. Everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not gametime.com. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Locked On NBA Daily. The best way to support the show is to subscribe on YouTube. We air Monday to Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, wherever you get your podcast. Haize, I'll ask you the question. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the best scorer in the NBA since blank.
Just pure score? That's what we're going with here?
Yep.
Jeez. Maybe Melo?
Wow, that's far back. Matt?
Jordan. It's Jordan.
Jordan?
There has not been a better one. It's not just the consistency, it's the volume times efficiency. And this, I hate how certain people are trying to gatekeep with basketball by saying like, oh, they want to tell you about the nerds want to tell you about efficiency. It's just missing fewer shots. That's it. That's all we're talking about with efficiency. Making more shots than you miss is good. That's it. He doesn't waste possessions ever. I said this morning, there's no meat on the bone with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from a scoring perspective. His shot selection is so tight. He doesn't take heat checks. He doesn't take bad shots. He doesn't take shots that are out of the rhythm of the offense. It is so disciplined. Like, Shai is what Luka Doncic could be if he just actually wanted to work a little harder. Like, it is insane to me how good Shai is at his discipline with this stuff. His turnover rate is nothing. His efficiency is sky high. He just makes everything that he puts up. If he's putting up a shot, it's because it's a good shot that he can get to, even when it's a tough bucket, because he has worked so hard on the mechanics of that dead arm push off that he's got to be able to create space and his footwork to generate that. There has not been anybody. There have been guys who might be able to make as tough a shots as Shai, but they wasted too many possessions. Melo chief among them at just like absolute throwing up junk throughout the course of the game, trying to boost up their numbers. Everything with Shai is tight, efficient, and perfect. He is the best scorer since Jordan.
I think I'm there. The only other names that I started to dabble with was like 2018, 2019 James Harden. In terms of just every single night, you kind of knew what he was giving you. It was just like this crazy baseline, but the efficiency wasn't there with Harden, right?
Even if we move beyond like because I did a lot of work on Harden during this era, if you move beyond just like the numbers of efficiency, let's just talk about it like more in this context. James would still waste a lot of possessions just chucking up stuff, because for him it was
that was by design, right? Like
it
that
was
sort of the
it was
idea.
all about volume, right?
Yeah.
It's just like and Luka does this now. It's all he does everything, and every shot from him is more valuable than X, Y, or Z you would create otherwise. And so there was a lot of junk that he would kind of throw in, even his step backs. It was like, you do this thing where if it mid transition, you do a step back three and half the defenders are at half court while you take the step back three. Well, guess what happens if you miss? That's a fast break the other way. It doesn't happen with Shai. He doesn't waste anything like that. They don't get imbalanced floors with him. So like, to me, he is a much better scorer than Harden, honestly.
Haize, last thing on this. When you hear Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the conversation with Michael Jordan, when you hear Matt say he's the best scorer since Jordan, you're the Bulls guy. How does that make you feel?
I mean, no, he's not saying he's a better scorer than Jordan. So that's what doesn't trigger anything there.
Yeah.
So Matt, good choice of words there, Matt. But no, I mean, there's definitely an argument to be made there, and what Shai does and how consistent he does it. No, there's a legitimate argument to be made there.
Let's talk about the Golden State Warriors. They lose to the Utah Jazz last night. Of course, Kristaps Porzingis still in and out of the lineup. Recently, those did say that he hopes to string together some games at the end of the season, so we can all try to be optimistic about that. Steph Curry still out. Team hopes that he will be back at some point by the end of the season. The Warriors do play the Bulls tonight, but it just seems like everybody is waiting for this team to get healthy. Here's more from Locked On Warriors.
So much of what we're watching right now for Warrior fans is just a lesson in expectation management. My bigger question than can they beat the Bulls tomorrow? Because sure, anybody can beat the Bulls, but they also might not because they don't have a lot of talent. My bigger question is like, what are the goals night to night?
So right now, the Warriors are 9th in the West, a game and a half up on Portland. They could finish as high as 8th, but that seems about it. Nobody really expects the Warriors to do anything this postseason, right? So what should be the goals night to night, Matt?
I guess put money in the owner's pockets. I don't know what we're doing here. Steph was really adamant at All-Star that when he got back, they were going to be able to make a run. And then he had the setback. And now I'm like, sun's getting real low, buddy. Like, it's March 10th. You get a month to put this together. It's not going to shock me. I'm going to go further than that. There's a lot of indications that when they get Curry back, that one singular piece is good enough to be, they're going to be so far under the radar, Haize, that I actually think that they'll be kind of dangerous. Like, I think the Warriors with Steph are more dangerous than this Clippers team. Like, I just think that that's kind of true. They're more dangerous than the Suns, I think. Like, if they wind up in the 7th spot and they catch, it's going to be San Antonio. And San Antonio is riding high, and it's been such a great season, and they're looking to the OKC matchup, and can we win a title? And you run into a veteran, grizzled Warriors team with Steph Curry back. There's a lot of indications that actually the Warriors could be tough. Now, San Antonio is way better. They should beat that team in 5 games max. I am just not at a point where I can completely say it's over. But if Steph doesn't get back soon, man, you got to start pivoting towards the draft. Like, you just have to.
It's over. Shout out to Matt for giving some type of optimism. It's done. Like even if Steph comes back, like, okay, you can push your team to 5 games. I will say that's possible with it. But like, Jimmy's down. This team's the depth has been questionable all season and inconsistent at best, if you want to say that. Like, Steph is great, and what Steph's been able to do at this age is great, and it's really good. But this team was built around that wild hogs of Dre, Jimmy, and Steph, and with Steph already being hurt, with Dre being a head case and Jimmy being out, I just don't think they can really do amount to much this offseason.
They've got the 10th best defense, schedule adjusted, 15th best offense without Steph playing all this time. Mm-hmm. I can't let go. Like, I can't let go of this. Like,
what's the record during that time, though, man?
I know, but I don't care about record. Like, I care about like what the underlying numbers say.
I want to fast forward to this offseason because Mark Spears from ESPN went on a radio station in the Bay Area recently and said that he's talked to Steph, and there's an idea that Steph just believes that there's a star player is going to make his way to the Warriors this summer. Now, whether or not that star player is playing LeBron. That's the name, right, Haize? It's LeBron. It's Giannis, obviously. They've always kept tabs on the Giannis situation. It does feel, though, Haize, like it's superstar player or bust for the Golden State Warriors. is that really what we're doing here? And could getting somebody like LeBron, I mean, Giannis is, I guess, its own thing, but could any of those things really be enough to turn this Warriors team into a legit contender in the Western Conference?
Yes, and the reason why I say yes, if it's LeBron, there are going to be role players that are willing to take less to come play with Steph and LeBron. And that's going to be what, not just LeBron and Steph together, but the fact that that's going to cause a domino effect of people being willing to take probably the vet minimum or slightly above that to come play with those two guys, even if it is one season. I'd say, yeah, that could put a domino effect for them to be a threat in the West. I still don't know if I'd put them a chance to get past the Spurs or the Thunder, but it would put them on a path to have a chance there.
We don't see that much anymore. The bandwagon hoppers. We don't see those as much as we used to. I don't think so, because I just think Jimmy Butler's dead weight. Like, over 35, coming off ACL, not back till midseason. What are you gonna really do? Like, if they dumped Dre and Jimmy this season, I would be really interested, because it's like you could add in like a whole bunch of pieces with the money off of that. Like, that would be real, but you'd have to use picks in order to move off of those, and they're not going to do that. Like, it would take a dramatic reimagining of this team. Like, that's the real problem, is they want to rely on a tried and true formula that, honestly, to their credit, does still work. Like, Draymond and Steph on the floor still win their minutes, but it's going to take such a dramatic reimagining of this roster that I don't think that they're capable of going for, because it's too risky. As always, I think teams are too afraid of doing what's necessary to really go for it.
It's a dangerous game, I think, when you're playing the all-star, superstar, or bust kind of game, which it just feels like that's what the Warriors are doing. To your point, Matt, like, maybe they'd be better off reimagining this roster, doing a little bit more. I think they need to increase their floor more than they need to increase their ceiling, and yet we just keep talking about these superstar-type trades. Speaking of superstars, the Lakers play the Timberwolves tonight. Are the Timberwolves the Lakers' kryptonite? We'll talk about that next. Today's episode of Locked On NBA is brought to you by TurboTax. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth, wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar that you deserve, while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing that your taxes are being handled right. Head to TurboTax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment today. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. College basketball is nonstop, big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay that you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits your read. You can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. And then you can apply any profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout. We're talking about Celtics Spurs in the next segment, and FanDuel has odds on the NBA Finals matchup. Celtics Spurs right now, plus 1,200. It's the fifth best odds behind the Thunder versus basically the other top four teams in the Eastern Conference. You can go safe, you can go bold, ride with the team that you've been following all season long. It's your parlay, your style, now with even more upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel. Play your game. Thanks for making Locked On NBA Daily your first listen every day. The Locked On Podcast Network has a show for every team. Check out Locked On Thunder and Locked On Warriors for more on today's top stories. Looking ahead to tonight's game, Celtics Spurs tonight. Should be a fun matchup. Could be a potential NBA Finals matchup, but an interesting matchup. The Celtics, not really a team that attacks the rim a whole lot. The San Antonio Spurs do have Victor Wembanyama to vaporize the paint no matter when Boston does decide to attack the rim, but the Celtics are a jump shooting team. The Spurs are very much a get to the rim type of team and take away the rim kind of team. Matt, I think there's an interesting matchup brewing here, how a jump shot team plays against the San Antonio type of defense.
Yeah, so there's been a couple of these matchups where I thought that the Spurs were going to get in trouble from the math perspective, and it hasn't bit them yet. So I'm really curious to see if this one hurts them. They're 14th in three-point rate, 18th in efficiency, San Antonio. They want to get into the paint. Like, they want to attack. That's what they want to do. Is they're 7th in rim rate, 9th in efficiency down there. So they want to, like, it makes sense, right? Not only Wembanyama, but you got Fox and Castle getting layups. I'm really curious to see how that kind of matches up with Boston, who is the number 1 lowest opponent rim rate team. They've allowed fewer shots at the rim than anybody else. By the way, another reason Joe Mazzulla is coach of the year, and I've come around on this because I thought it was Ott for a long time. He has Kada and Vucevic, and they're number 1 in opponent rim rate and 6th in percentage. It's nuts. How are they doing this? So I like this matchup a lot for Boston. I just think that this is a game where the jump shooting ability negates a lot of what San Antonio wants to do defensively and gives them an advantage in terms of the numbers game. And what San Antonio wants to do offensively is what the Celtics really guard against defensively. It's going to be a really interesting matchup. I'm fascinated to watch it, but I like how Boston matches up here, Haize.
Yeah, I mean, this is what Boston does. Now, Vooch is out for 3 or 4 weeks, so, you know, you won't have Vooch available with this one. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how your defense is going to stand up without Vooch. It's impossible. But, you know, one thing that the Boston Celtics are good at is they're just good at playing that math game, right? Like, they're good at being so efficient at what they do that it makes the margin for error very small for teams that aren't very efficient. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Spurs can maintain their efficiency in this game against Boston, because if they can't, Boston's going to win this game.
Let's go to the next game on tonight's slate. The Lakers looking to get their 3rd straight win, but they got to do it against the Minnesota Timberwolves. We remember how the playoffs fared last year. A lot of people thinking, hey, the Lakers, they could play small. They might be an interesting matchup for the Timberwolves. And Minnesota was like, does not matter. We are going to dominate the paint and we're going to crush you. The Lakers have had a hard time with the Wolves over the last couple of seasons. Haize, why is this matchup so bad for the Lakers?
Because Anthony Edwards and Luka are 2 very different players. One's tough, one's fake tough. I think that point of attack goes a long way into that. So Anthony Edwards actually being a tough player is going to cause some fits. And they have tough players all up and down this roster for Minnesota, as a matter of fact. So I think that's going to be the thing that causes, a big struggle for the Lakers here. They're just not that tough of a team.
It's very rare that Haize goes further than I do on the strong takes. And man, that was a shot, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. Interesting, by the way, this team, they're actually 2-0 versus the Wolves this year. They faced them twice early in the season. Once without Ant, but they got killed. The Wolves got killed in Ant's minutes in the first game. Now, it might have just been like early season because it's back in October, if you can remember that far back. But one of the things I think that actually is kind of a problem here is, so Ayton is essentially out of the lineup, right? Like, he's effectively out of the rotation. I think he's hurt, and it's been bad. Well, okay, so now it's Jackson Hayes going up against Nas and Rudy and Randall. And that to me is just like, that's not where you want to be. You need size in order. You have to have some size to counter these guys. They're going to kill you on the glass. Like, they're just going to kill you. However, look, Lakers coming off of 2 good wins. Well, I'm sorry, 1 good win. They beat the Jazz, and then they beat the Knicks, which was a good win. Knicks had a terrible weekend in LA. I'm just going to be kind of curious to see what this version of the Lakers that has been so inconsistent and hasn't been able to beat good teams looks like. I still kind of feel like, Wes, that matchup last year shouldn't have been as bad as it was. And if you remember, there were games where it was like LA probably, you can go back and be like, LA probably should have won that one. Like, it should have gone probably 6 at the least. I'm not saying that it's not a bad matchup. I'm just not sure that this is such a bad matchup for the Lakers. I'm curious to see how this one plays out tonight.
Yeah, Gobert in the first 2 games that they played this season, to your point, the Lakers won those games. I think he scored a total of 10 points across both of those games. It was like 8 points in one, 2 points in the other. But remember the closeout game last year, he had like 27 points against the Lakers, and it was maybe his best offensive game of his career. But that's sort of the formula, right? Against this Lakers team that doesn't really have much rim protection or interference at the basket, at that center spot, Gobert should be able to just eat. And if it's not Gobert, by the way, they have Julius Randle, they have Naz Reid, they have other guys that can maybe do some of that stuff. I am interested to see if they get more from Gobert in tonight's game, because it just feels like there's so much opportunity there, even for a guy like Rudy Gobert, who's not a very willing shooter.
In the 1 game that Luka played of the set, he had a 146 offensive rating in that game.
LeBron did not play those first 2 games because that happened. That's another big thing here. LeBron's first game against Minnesota.
Well, notable.
Could matter. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA Daily wherever you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. Thank you to Matt and Haize for their expertise every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network your first listen. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA Daily.